Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. We are picking up right where we left off from last week's video. So if you have not already seen last week's video, I will link the playlist to all three of the previous videos on this project right up here. This is a Regency ball gown that we are making this week and that we are hopefully finishing this week. That is the goal. Because really, although it doesn't look like much right now, all that I have to do is join this to the waistband and to the skirt, hem the skirt, bind the neckline, and do the sleeves. The big caveat to that is that this is actually tech week for my show, Fiddler on the Roof, and so I have basically zero time in which to do all of that this week, but we are going to try and we are going to see, because honestly, a lot of that is like handwork that I can bring with me to the theater. And what's not handwork is the sleeves, so that's going to be the hard part. So I'm going to start off though by attaching the waistband and doing the binding on the neckline. I'm going to hold off on attaching the skirt because that is just more to bring around, and I want to try and do the sleeves first, I think. So once I get the neckline and the waistband finished, let's dive into the sleeves. All right, the piping is stitched on by machine on this side. I have to hand sew it on this side, so I'm going to bring it with me to rehearsal tonight and hopefully get all of that hand sewing done. I also have the waistband attached now, so that is all set. So we did a nice little bit on this bodice already right away, and again, hopefully I will have even more done by the end of rehearsal, and then we can move on to the sleeves. Oh, I'm also going to hand stitch down the facing, at least most of the way. I do need to leave some of it free to attach the skirt, but I can stitch down most of the facing by hand tonight as well. By the way, just in case you were curious, because I know I was curious when I saw this sweater in someone else's video, this sweater, in case anyone is also wanting a Barbie Christmas sweater, is from Forever 21. I will link it down below in the description, because when I saw this in someone else's video, I was like scouring the internet for it, and it runs humongous. This is an extra large and it's big, and it's supposed to be way too small for me. Like, I fully expected to purchase this and then just return it because it wouldn't fit. So if you are probably up to, I would say as far as like a 45 to 46 inch waist and like a 54, 55 inch bust, this sweater will actually fit you. So yeah, I was very, very excited when I got this and didn't have to return it. Yay. Yeah, I'm gonna go sew some more. The piping is now all stitched down on the inside as well, so that is all set. So let's talk sleeves. And I do not have very much time to sew sleeves, so we're gonna see if we can actually get this finished after all. Because yeah, I really have not had time to sew during this tech week. So it is now Friday and I'm about to head out to opening night in like an hour. But we're gonna start on the sleeves, and I want to take a look at this picture with you right here. So luckily we have a side view of these sleeves, and with this side view we can tell that the like sort of gathered puffy organza section up at the top is actually a whole separate different thing than the organza that is the length of the sleeve, and you can see the space in between them. So that upper organza is just kind of scrunched up there, and it is like attached then to the little petal type oversleeve type section. So we have to figure that part out, but the undersleeve itself should be pretty simple. And I'm again going back to the Laughing Moon pattern for this, which has a long sleeve pattern like this. And this long sleeve, if we look at a picture of the Laughing Moon, is supposed to be basically the same exact shape as what I'm going for. So that is great. I don't think I'm going to do a mock-up, but I am going to measure this just to make sure that it does have that extra room, because this is supposed to not really be a fitted sleeve. There's a little bit of extra room around on the arm. And then otherwise we're just going to cut this out as is, probably lengthening this as well, because although this is meant to be a little bit longer than the average arm, because it's kind of like loosey-goosey, my arm is already longer than the average arm. So yeah, we'll check measurements and see what this needs to be increased by, because I honestly don't remember. So we're going to use that sleeve pattern, and then I think that I can adapt this petal over sleeve pattern, again from the same Laughing Moon pattern, for my use with like the points. I'm not 100% positive if I really like this tabby look going on here, like the silly little tabs sticking out past where they're joined together in, it's not even a band, it's like, I guess I have no other better term than a band, but it's like the world's tiniest, narrowest band that really doesn't have much function other than to keep things together and finish off the bottom of the scrunchy top part. So yeah, I don't know that I like those tabs. I'm looking at them here on my phone while you're looking at them on screen. So I think I'm gonna change that up since I have changed other things with this look as well. Like my belt doesn't have the tabs that the original one had, and the original one also had the tab decoration around towards the hem, and I'm not doing it there either. So it doesn't make sense to me to just have it on the sleeves. So I think we're gonna do away with that and probably just have each little portion end in that band type situation. So yeah, I'm gonna start by cutting out the longer just organza sleeves, and then I will turn my attention towards the tabby type parts. I'm basically like, by doing this, I'm gonna count how many there are. I think there's 5 total, and I'm just going to, there's 6 on here, so I'm just gonna kind of use this as a general shape and then redraw my shapes here. But I think this will kind of work because I'm pretty sure that that oversleeve portion on the one that I'm making doesn't join together underneath the arm, and likewise this doesn't either. So I don't think I need the full sleeve head like I would have here, where, you know, it comes around and then comes back over. I think I can use that other piece, but I'm gonna stare at it a little bit harder first just to make sure. And but yeah, in the meantime, let's go cut out this. So I checked the measurements everywhere, and this sleeve pattern actually has like all of the measurements that I was thinking I needed. So I'm not doing a mock-up. I am just cutting out this sleeve pattern, and we're going to live dangerously. So I know that this looks like an abstract dinosaur, but this is actually the mock-up pattern that I've come up with for the oversleeve. I have no idea if this is going to be correct or not, but I took this one as my base and then I changed it into kind of the tab look, and I had to keep on there that I have the seam allowance in there. Now this pattern has a 1/4 inch seam allowance along here. I'm probably going to have a likewise small seam allowance, maybe not 1/4, but maybe like 3/8 inch around here. I'm really not sure how well this is going to go yet. I was thinking that I would have like 2 layers of this with the piping sandwiched in between, but the other option is just have 1 layer and have the piping actually go around like binding on all of this. And I probably wouldn't actually round the corners here. I'd probably just kind of end the piping and restart the piping on each of these, because this is meant to go into the band. So I'm going to attempt to put this together, as in like seam the edges together and put the gathering stitches up at the top, and maybe create kind of a makeshift band, or maybe even just out of ribbon for that to go into. I don't have the scrunchy silk organza part that goes in the middle yet. I haven't like figured that part out, but maybe I can do this mock-up just with a silk organza undersleeves and see if it will look at all correct. So as far as the sheer undersleeves go, I am doing a French seam on the actual like long arm seam. So I figured I would show you how to go about doing a French seam, since it's something that I always wind up referring to tutorial to. So I looked at a tutorial on craftsy.com, which I will link down below in the description, but I'm going to show you step by step how that works. So we start off with a relatively narrow seam allowance to begin with. This one is about 3/8 of an inch wide. Just did that on the sewing machine, and I did that on both sleeves, making sure of course that you have your sleeves be opposite of each other. And now I'm going to trim this down even smaller, and then I'm going to press that open. Okay, so the tutorial said to press open, but I found that I literally could not get this open. So I've actually pressed it just to one side. I know this is like impossible to see, but there we go. It is pressed to one side. I did that from the exterior. This is what you're looking at right here. This is the exterior. And that's because the next step would have been to press it from this side anyway, just flat. And the step after this is actually going to kind of negate the need to press it open, because we are now going to fold it here and press on the seam line so that the seam itself becomes the edge. So we press that in place because we're going to do another stitch line along here so that this whole little seam, this edge, is all encased inside. And that way we get a really nice clean finish with all of our edges still encased on a sheer fabric. So that's what French seams are really great for, is encasing your edges. If you don't have a serger, you might want to do that on all of your seams, but certainly if you're working with something this sheer, French seams are definitely your friend. By the way, I'm doing this all on a sleeve board. I've talked about my whole kind of ironing setup on this channel before, but this entire table is my ironing surface. I'll link to the video where I recovered this, by the way. And so when I'm doing something delicate or something small or something like a sleeve that is a tube, I pull out my sleeve board. I think I got this on Amazon. I'm not sure. I'll try and link it down below in the description because I know a lot of people don't know about these, but this is fantastic. It gives you a nice small surface so that if you are working with something small, like even like an applique, say, you can just have it focus on here and you don't have to use your whole surface, or you don't have to set up an ironing board if you otherwise need to set that up. They're also good at just kind of stemming the tide of the other fabrics that you shove in the back of your table like that. So yeah, definitely recommend a sleeve board, just like you have a sleeve ham or a pressing ham. This is another really important pressing tool that you definitely want to have in your sewing equipment library. So this is what it looks like with that second seam sewn in there, and now we are going to press it again. This time we are going to press it from what is actually the outside, which is this. So this kind of gets complicated if you have a patterned fabric, like a correct side and a wrong side. I obviously don't. Both sides are the same, so it made it a lot easier. I just had to make sure that both of my sleeves were mirrored to each other. But if you do have a right side, wrong side, you are actually going to start with the wrong sides together as opposed to the right sides together like you would on a normal seam, because we're turning this twice. So now I just get to press this again, and that is my seam that you can see in there. That's the edge of the fabric, and it's all encased, so it's not going to fray anywhere and it's going to look all pretty. So yeah, that's a French seam for you. I'll show you the finished product. And here we go. Here is our finished French seam. So it looks all nice in there. That's what it looks like from afar. It just kind of looks thicker. And I am actually going to serge the section that goes into the arm's eye as well as the wrist, because these are going into seams. We're not going to see any of this. So that's going to be how I finish those off. And actually with the wrist, we are going to be applying lace around there, and we're going to be probably gathering this down just a little bit because this is way bigger than my wrist. So we'll gather it down to fit the lace. This is the lace that I plan to use. So it is already gathered down to kind of a fitted top, and I should be able to just apply that. And I think this was multi-tiered lace. I think, yeah, that's why I picked it out, because it's actually 2 layers of lace. Really, with this, I should have like this and then one that's a little bit further down, but this just kind of looked the nicest. So that's what I'm going with for the wrist. So this is my mock-up for the over sleeve, and it's kind of a half mock-up because I folded back the seam allowances here, like on the sides, but I did not cut little slits in so that I could fold them up there. So that really would have been more cut away. And I just kind of pinned my piping down to the bottom, which I'm definitely going to have to make more piping as well, because I do not have enough piping. That's all I have just right there. And if it's going to go around all of these little sort of cutouts, then yeah, I need to make more piping. I am wondering if this isn't too long, but that's something that I can easily do even after I add the piping. And I think that otherwise it is the right shape. Like if we look at the original, it is also looking very weird. So I think it is the right shape. And like, I think that the distance there, this is the only part that I'm not sure about. If I have too much distance here before like the top cutaway, which of course it's hard to tell since I did not fold that out of the way. I feel like once it's folded out of the way, it's going to be fine. But yeah, that's what it looks like from the side. It definitely looks weird. This is all very, very weird. And behind that is going to be the sort of bunched up organza and then the long sleeve underneath. So Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with it. I think I'm just gonna cut the sleeve out like of the silk, ideally of 2 layers of silk with the piping sandwiched in between for each of these little cutouts. So we'll see how much of the purple silk I have left, but let's go attempt to cut all that out. It looks like fingers. Like, I think it's just because the color right now, but I swear it looks like a hand. It's the wrong hand. It's this hand. There we go. Look. Oh dear. Yeah. So that looks like a hand. And then I also realized this is completely a menorah. I made a menorah bodice, which if you don't know what a menorah is, that's like the candle holder for Hanukkah. And this is a very classical menorah look with, in fact, the correct amount. So I might have to do something silly come the end of December and like add a candle on each night, just a little piece of felt or something on it and pretend it's a menorah. I think my family would get a kick out of that. But yeah, there we go. It's a menorah bodice with a hand sleeve. Well, here is all of my additional piping. That was 140-ish plus inches of piping more that I've made. So that should now be enough to do all of the ins and outs of all of these. And I have in fact cut these pieces out of the silk taffeta. I did have enough fabric to even make the stripes pretty regular. So yeah, now these are ready to be bound and everything. However, as I kind of feared at the beginning of this video, Tech Week did get the better of my time, which makes sense. That's what happens during Tech Week. If you've never done a show, basically your entire life is at the theater. And so that is all I managed to accomplish this week. But the show is open. We have had 3 performances so far. I think people are loving it, hopefully. And it feels like it's going pretty well. So there's 3 more weekends of the completely sold out show. We sold out like a week and a half or 2 weeks before we even opened. But yeah, we have 3 more weekends left of that and 5 shows per weekend. So sewing time will be minimal over the rest of December. However, I am just pretty gosh darn determined that this project is going to get finished next week because we are so close. And I'm also tired of this project. So like if it doesn't get finished next week, I'm worried that it won't get finished at all. So it's gonna happen. It is absolutely gonna happen, I promise you. And really, again, it's those complicated sleeves. So hopefully you at least enjoyed the French seam tutorial this week. I've been kind of trying to add these tutorials into these shorter videos. If you missed last week's video, then you might not know that last week's video included a piping tutorial. So if you want to learn things like piping or like French seams, here you go. I have had requests from you guys for other such tutorials. So if there is something that you are looking to learn, let me know and I will try to incorporate that in as it comes up in a project, because I always try to help you guys with what you want to learn. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you liked this video and this French seam tutorial, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with a sewing vlog like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. I'd also like to take this time to thank all of my absolutely amazing Patreon patrons without whom I could not be doing all of these videos, and particularly my patrons at the Romantic, Victorian, and Edwardian level tiers, who are Jean, Kim, Audra, Janet, Deborah, Rowan, Liz, Robin, Nurse Anita, Linda, Jen, and Dale. Thank you all so much, and thank you all for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!